Hello and welcome. Today, we're going to discuss an important topic: California Firearm Safety Test. Specifically, we'll be going through some true or false questions related to the Firearm Safety Certificate, and providing you with answers and explanations to help you better understand firearm safety. Let's get started. Most ammunition can penetrate residential doors and walls. Option A, true. Option B, false. It depends on the type of ammunition and the material of the door or wall. In general, some types of ammunition can penetrate through residential doors and walls, while others may not. For example, rifle rounds are more likely to penetrate walls than handgun rounds, and walls made of materials such as drywall may be easier to penetrate than those made of brick or concrete. So the answer to the question is true, but with some conditions and caveats. The legal right of self-defense ends when there is no further physical danger from an assailant. Option A, true. Option B, false. Under California law, an individual has the right to use reasonable force in self-defense, even if the initial threat has ended, as long as the force used is proportional to the threat faced. This means that an individual may continue to use force to defend themselves or others until they are no longer in imminent danger. However, it is important to note that the specifics of self-defense laws may vary depending on the circumstances of the situation. In some cases, it may be difficult to determine when the threat has ended and when continued use of force is no longer justified. In such cases, it is always advisable to seek legal advice. Therefore, the answer to the statement is false, at least in the state of California. Now question number 3. As long as the safety is on, it is safe to test your finger on the trigger. Option A, true. Option B, false. Testing your finger on the trigger of a firearm, even if the safety is on, is never considered safe firearm handling practice. A firearm should always be treated as if it is loaded, and fingers should remain off the trigger until the shooter is ready to fire. Additionally, relying solely on the safety mechanism of a firearm is not a foolproof safety measure. Accidents can still occur if the safety mechanism fails or is disengaged accidentally. Therefore, the answer to the question is false. Next question. Trigger locks and cable locks are designed to prevent unauthorized from firing your firearm. Option A, true. Option B, false. Trigger locks and cable locks are designed to prevent unauthorized from firing your firearm. Trigger locks and cable locks are safety devices that can help prevent unauthorized individuals from firing a firearm. Trigger locks are designed to fit around the trigger guard of a firearm and prevent the trigger from being pulled, while cable locks are designed to lock the action of a firearm in a way that prevents it from being loaded and fired. These safety devices can be particularly useful for preventing accidental discharges or unauthorized access to firearms, especially in households where children or other individuals who should not have access to firearms may be present. However, it is important to note that these devices are not foolproof and should be used in conjunction with other safe firearm handling practices, such as safe storage and proper training. Therefore, the answer to the statement is true. Now question number 5. You can safely assume a semi-automatic firearm is unloaded if its magazine has been removed. Option A, true. Option B, false. Even if the magazine has been removed from a semi-automatic firearm, it is not safe to assume that the firearm is unloaded. There may still be a round in the chamber, which can be discharged if the trigger is pulled. Therefore, it is always important to visually and physically inspect the firearm to confirm that it is unloaded before handling it or allowing others to handle it. This includes checking the chamber, magazine well, and other areas where ammunition may be stored. Therefore, the answer to the statement, "You can safely assume a semi-automatic firearm is unloaded if the magazine has been removed," true or false, is false. Next question. You may be guilty of criminal storage of a firearm if keep a loaded firearm where a child obtains access to the firearm and thereby causes injury or death, or the firearm to a public place. Option A, true. Option B, false. Under California law, it is a crime to store a loaded firearm in a place where a child is likely to gain access to it, and thereby cause injury or death. It is also illegal to store a firearm in a manner that allows it to be easily accessible to someone under 18 years of age, or to leave a loaded firearm in a public place where it is not in the immediate control of the owner or an authorized person. Criminal storage of a firearm can be charged as a felony or a misdemeanor, and may result in fines and/or imprisonment. Therefore, the answer to the statement, "You may be guilty of criminal storage of a firearm if you keep a loaded firearm where a child obtains access to the firearm and thereby causes injury or death, or the firearm to a public place. True or false?" is true. Shooting a firearm into the air is an unsafe and often illegal way of celebrating a holiday. Option A, true. Option B, false. Shooting a firearm into the air is extremely dangerous and can lead to serious injury or death. Bullets fired into the air can travel great distances and come down at high speeds, posing a risk to anyone in the area. Additionally, it is often illegal to discharge firearms in residential areas or within city limits, and doing so can result in criminal charges. Therefore, the answer to the statement, "Shooting a firearm into the air is an unsafe and often illegal way of celebrating a holiday. True or false?" is true. The sale or transfer of firearm between two private parties, non-dealers, must be through a licensed firearms dealer only if the buyer and the seller do not personally know each other. Option A, true. Option B, false. In California, the sale or transfer of a firearm between two private parties, non-dealers, must go through a licensed firearms dealer, regardless of whether or not the buyer and seller personally know each other. This is known as a private party transfer, and it is required to be conducted through a licensed dealer in order to ensure that the buyer is eligible to possess firearms, and that the firearm is not stolen or otherwise prohibited. There are some exceptions to this requirement, such as transfers between immediate family members, law enforcement officers, or as part of certain inheritance or estate settlements. Therefore, the answer to the statement, "The sale or transfer of firearm between two private parties, non-dealers, must be through a licensed firearms dealer only if the buyer and the seller do not personally know each other. True or false?" is false. Question number 9. Easy access to loaded firearms in homes is a major cause of accidental shootings involving children. Option A, true. Option B, false. Easy access to loaded firearms in homes is a major cause of accidental shootings involving children. Children are naturally curious and may not understand the danger posed by firearms, and the presence of a loaded firearm in the home increases the risk of unintentional shootings. Therefore, it is important for firearms owners to store their firearms securely and keep them out of reach of children. This may include using a gun safe or lock box, keeping ammunition separate from firearms, and teaching children about firearm safety. Therefore, the answer to the statement, "Easy access to loaded firearms in homes is a major cause of accidental shootings involving children. True or false?" is true. Last question. Generally, it is illegal to carry a loaded handgun in public. Option A, true. Option B, false. In California, it is generally illegal to carry a loaded handgun in public, unless the person carrying the handgun has a valid concealed carry permit. This is known as open carry, and it is prohibited in most situations. There are some exceptions to this law, such as for law enforcement officers, licensed security guards, and for people who are transporting unloaded handguns in a locked container or vehicle trunk. Therefore, the answer to the statement, "Generally, it is illegal to carry a loaded handgun in public. True or false?" is true.